Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big roster mania updates coming overnight, especially with the future of Saadhak confirming he's signing a 2-year extension with Loud to stay on as their in-game leader. This leaves NRG in a particularly precarious position. No in-game leader, probably no Evil Geniuses players. Who are they going to get instead, especially if Ye might not be an option if he signed a big money deal somewhere else in the world? Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, as Ye says, the true fear of every pro player, and I'm sure you guys playing, just random games will have done this maybe at some point or another over time. So we've got this Game Changers tournament going on down in Brazil. The player who is about to defuse the bomb celebrates, and then while celebrating, she accidentally takes her finger off the defuse button, and by the time she gets back to it, it's too little too late. She misses out on the defuse by a fraction, and they lose the round as a result. It's a cruel way to lose, especially when it was 8-7. This would have tied up the game at 8-8. They lost this round, as you can see here on Lotus. So this was round 16, of course. They lost this round. They eventually lost the map 13-11, this Odic Bright team, to the female MIBR roster. And then they lost game 2 13-10. So, man, that is a dagger, no doubt, and is one that, they won't forget for a very long time to come. Now, there's also another tournament going down yesterday in Pittsburgh, actually, the Knights LAN, where Dapper and the Oxygen Esports guys were in attendance. They played against this new QOR team, and this is, the new Oxygen Esports roster. QOR, though, looking kind of nice here, actually. They call this the Knights Forge, especially this player, Cheat Code, who, I'm guessing he's not actually cheating, but he did play rather well here, plus 21. Dapper, okay, look, he's not there to drop crazy numbers, but, they did win the series anyway, despite Dapper not having the best time. Scuba, Verno, and Redux especially looking good. So I quite like this Oxygen Esports team. Dapper joined recently, as we saw the other day. They did get counter-stratted really hard on Ascent, impressively so. 13-2, and then it was 13-7, 13-8. So Oxygen then bounced back, but yeah, that was an ugly one here, especially for, Chico was 21-5, so that pretty much says what you need to say. But some good players here, really. I mean, Nerve, Cheat Code, this guy, Scuba, like Redux, Verno, some solid players. So I'm excited to see how these guys get on next season in the Challenger side. And speaking of Bleed, and we'll get back to Bleed in a second, they confirmed Egoist as, starting with a new chapter. Now, there's been a lot of talk, actually, with the contract database updating and then unupdating with all sorts of Bleed players all over the place. And, signing new deals up to 2025. Bleed have the money, we know how it is. And Egoist was a player that I believe was briefly linked to Paper Rex. People thought that he might join there instead of Jing, but of course that didn't happen. They got Monyet instead, formerly of Global Esports, and now Egoist is going to be a new player for Bleed. Their roster is looking pretty tasty as far as I'm concerned, but Egoist was linked here for some time, and there is still one, at least as we believe, remaining spot that hasn't really been talked about yet, and that is potentially where a player like Ye might end up. We know that Ye is willing to play multiple different roles. He could potentially play Sentinel, could potentially play on the Duelist, and it does feel like there is a move really by most in-game leaders and most team compositions now to push towards a more open structure where teams can play and players can play multiple different roles. I mean, look at Evil Geniuses. Demon 1 could play basically anything, really. I mean, sometimes he was on the Brimstone. He was doing everything. Ethan as well could basically play any agent, and I feel like that's the way that teams will want to set up their rosters now, with very versatile players. Not just a strict, all right, you're the Duelist, you're the Sentinel, you're the Controller. I don't think it's going to work like that anymore. I think the teams are going to be way more, at least attempt to be, way more fluid in their structure. And I think that's one of the things that really helped Evil Geniuses. And also, I believe this is what FNS is trying to achieve as well with his NRG roster. Of course, he's not there anymore. And at Saadhak probably has a similar idea with Loud we'll get into. Now also with Team Liquid, Keiko, British player, we thought that maybe there was the possibility of CNED coming in here. That's not happening. They believe, or at least Alejandro believes, this deal is done. This is another really interesting one actually though. So Tex, he was dropped from the guard. It's kind of unclear why. We now think they're getting Jorgamo, like G2, formerly the guard. The belief was they were going to get Leaf, but now that is maybe less likely. And the going theory is that they're going to get Jorgamo instead. So Tex is out of a team, and he was maybe going to go to NRG. That is no longer happening. He has reached a verbal agreement with Leviatan to join them. Shy is going to Crew instead, and Tex will replace him. So Lev are cooking a really interesting team right now, because let's not forget, they're getting Aspas as well. It's, Aspas, King, Tex, and, that team is so good on paper, even with just that core. Now, again, as I say, it's interesting, Aspas and Tex on a team, how are the roles going to work, who's going to be the duelist, how's it going to work? But as I say, I think the real plan is for lots of these teams is to be way more versatile with their player selection than maybe teams have been in the past. So this is a really interesting acquisition, and it also means that what goes on with NRG, because they probably can't get Demon 1. They might be able to, but as Richard Lewis says, we saw the articles yesterday, NRG have offered big money to Demon 1 and, Ethan from EG to sign them. 100k between the two of them, something like that. And EG has said, no, we ain't selling them, buddy. We're forcing them to stay here and take a pay cut, is seemingly the strategy. So if they can't get Demon 1, Tex has now gone to Leviatan. Does that leave them with Leaf? Is it going to be Leaf to NRG? Maybe. Could they get Yay? That's another possibility. But the other issue is they don't really have an in-game leader right now, NRG. They obviously had FNS, they got rid of him. Valin is staying on former of the guards, now G2. John QT, he's of course going over to Sentinels, which should be pretty good on paper. So they didn't really have an in-game leader. This is now the question over the last few days. We saw it was Chet, right, the coach, in a group chat with Saadhak and Saadhak's agents, Derek Trong. That was leaked a while ago now, and we thought, all right, Saadhak to NRG might be on the cards. But officially confirmed yesterday, Saadhak says, all right, thanks for the memories, Loud, but actually, I'm continuing on. 2 more years with Loud, contract extended, contract signed, and I think that this was... Well, Saadhak was obviously weighing his options. He's an intelligent character. He knows what he's doing. He probably wanted to stay with Loud anyway, but of course he's going to entertain offers from other teams. Speak to NRG, speak to other teams, speak to Leviatan, who knows, get some offers around there, and then come back to Loud and say, hey, they're offering me this, they're offering me this, what can you guys match? And if they can, as they've done, he's now staying with Loud. This makes sense. I think it's quite nice to see Saadhak and Loud have kind of gone hand in hand. They're going to stay together going forwards, and he's also got his ideas of what he wants to do with the rest of the team. But with no NRG Saadhak, then what do they do instead? Now, a couple of words here that Saadhak actually said on stream to explain this, that Havoc, who was touted to be Aspas's replacement, is not going to come in apparently anymore. And as Saadhak says, I didn't want to just try and replace Aspas. There is only one player like him. I feel like we had to look for a different approach. So Aspas to Lev, Havoc possibly to Furia. And seems like Saadhak again is one of these IGLs that is keen to have multiple, like a massive agent pool in among the players, rather than replace players one for one. Very interesting stuff. He also went into some detail on exactly why Fraud has been removed. He basically says due to like language barriers, and he wasn't super, smart guy, but not super comfortable communicating in Portuguese or in English, and therefore that was causing a bit of a problem for them. He also mentions toys as the fact that he might well go on a controller, or he might become the duelist, and I think that they're a little bit unclear what the roles are going to be on that roster actually. And there was also talk, we'll see here in a second. Firstly, Boaster's like, oh my god, here we go again, because if there's one team that really has caused Fnatic some issues, Loud has been one of them. And I guess Fnatic beat them in that crazy Icebox game in the lock-in event at the start of the season, but obviously things ended a little bit differently come at the World Championship. But yes, a 2-year extension there, and as we see on Flynn's spreadsheet updates, and we'll get into the whole Loud thing in just a second, this is what he says. No spreadsheet, but these are the significant updates. Loud Saadhak renewed, that's now been confirmed, and to our understanding, Tex to Lev, Shy to Crew, and Furia Havoc is also on the cards. And then this is the possibility that Garvien is going to come in instead, and Toys on the duelist. But what I'm really interested in is what this means for NRG, because with no Saadhak going there, and I think that was maybe their key idea, because initially we thought, all right, Victor Crashies Marved, Saadhak and Aspas, right? Damn, what a team of 5. Then there were rumours that actually it was going to be Victor Crashies Marved, Ethan and Demon 1. And that was supposedly the team that Tarek was saying, great team, but, you know, who's the brain? Who's the IGL? Which might have made sense as an analysis for that roster of 5. But now, if you can't get Saadhak, you can't get, you know, Valiant, you can't get Gen.G, FNS, maybe you can beg him to come back, but I don't think he really wants to. So, you know, FNS is going to stay out, Som is going to stay out, officially released now by the organization, both of those players. So then you're wondering, all right, who do we get instead? Is the best option now for NRG to say, all right, we're just going to stack talent. Let's try and get Demon 1, try and get Ethan, and if we can't, we'll get Ye, and if we can't get Ye because he's going to bleed, we'll get Leaf, or just get loads of talent in. Who even cares who the IGL is? Maybe we'll make Marv do it. I don't know. Marv could do a good job. I mean, he did well briefly on Sentinels as the IGL. Did him IGLing affect his own performance? I think yes. Maybe he can do better on that with more time. So maybe it's not the end of the world. But I think it is difficult because I think ideally NRG probably wanted Saadhak to come along. I think that makes sense. But now they find themselves in a bit of a precarious position, it's got to be said. So very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Salve galera, Saadhak, capitão, pai, aqui. Então, essas últimas 3 semanas foram realmente muito difíceis, né? Muitos sentimentais, muita coisa. Quando eu decidi sair da Argentina para vir até aqui, eu não imaginei tudo que ia atingir no Brasil. Eu lembro que saí da Argentina, né, para buscar o sonho de ser campeão mundial, realmente. Aí entramos na Loud, apostamos em 2 promessas, os meninos cresceram muito bem, amassaram. A gente ganhou um mundial, coisa que para mim foi uma coisa incrível. E depois, né, aconteceu que tivemos algumas mudanças, nos tivemos que adaptar, chamamos novos talentos, a gente ganhou muita coisa esse ano, atingimos uns objetivos que a gente não achou que íamos atingir tão rápido e realmente foi muito lindo. Cara, peraí que eu tô querendo comprar um negócio, peraí. Galera, ficaram preocupados? Relaxa. Fui comprar um mento só. Pai, está na Loud mais 2 anos, tem que aguentar, tá?